Joining us right now with reaction is Sara Nelson, the president of the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA. Sara, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. What have you heard about this particular incident in Atlanta, and how common is it for TSA agents to find guns in carry-on luggage?
Well, this has been much more common this past year. We have 4,500 incidents across the country and 450 incidents in Atlanta. This is incredibly disrupting. Obviously, this shut down operations for a couple hours and made a lot of people really terrified here. And it's something that the transportation security officers have to deal with in their workplace. That's why we really encourage people, as you're packing for your holiday travel, to start packing from an empty bag so you don't inadvertently bring something that's a prohibited item.
Oh, that's a good advice.
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, you mentioned the actual number, but according to the TSA, officers detected a record number of firearms at airport security checkpoints this year. A 20-year record with, by the way, 3 months still remaining in the calendar year. Also, we saw fewer passengers because of the pandemic. When we think about people who are going to be going on flights, that is obviously worst case scenario situation, a lot of flights delayed, ground stops, etc. Is there anything other than making sure that we are packing an empty bag to make sure we don't bring anything prohibited, anything else we can do, or we just have to be prepared for anything?
Well, look, this is chaos at the airport because many people have forgotten how to travel and everyone has questions. And so when you do this, when you don't take care of your own requirements for your travel and make sure that you are meeting all of the rules, you're slowing things down for yourself and everyone else around you. There are people who have missed flights because the security lines have been so backed up because the transportation security officers are doing their job and they're having to stop the whole security process to address a prohibited item, deal with that, make sure there's not a larger threat.
Yeah.
And so people need to be aware. But I would also really encourage people to come early so that you're not feeling that rush and getting anxious yourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, and Sara, you know, Lindsey kind of hinted to it, to many of these incidents, and getting your tips as to what exactly to do. And you mentioned it, more than 4,000 unruly passengers this year alone. We still have another month to go. You see the numbers are last year was down, but the numbers are up significantly from last year. And you mentioned some key tips, but I've also spoken with you many times before, and when I've had some incidents I'd observed on an airplane, you said, reach out to the FAA. What should a passenger do if they see something happening untoward?
We really encourage passengers to be good witnesses. So if you immediately get involved in conflict, you may inadvertently give rise to that conflict and add to it. So make sure that you're getting in touch with airport staff in the airport, and on the plane, get in touch with a flight attendant as soon as possible. We're really good at de-escalating issues and making sure that any incident on the plane doesn't make the evening news and delay your flight and everyone else around you. So make sure that you're alerting us as soon as possible. Now, that may mean ringing your flight attendant call button if you're right next to the problem. We really encourage other passengers to be looking around and be aware, be a good witness. Only get involved if there is imminent threat of someone getting hurt, and otherwise wait for crew instruction.
I mean, you guys are good at de-escalating. Unfortunately, many of these incidents that flight attendants have to de-escalate are preventable to begin with. Before we let you go, I want to talk about a vaccine mandate going into effect tomorrow for TSA. Now, we know 90% are vaccinated, but how much of a disruption do you think this could cause in airports if they do end up losing 10% of their workers?
Look, I think that Administrator Pekoski for the TSA is looking at this very closely, and the union is suggesting that they move the date back to match federal contractors to January 18th. That will give people time to get vaccinated over the holidays, talk with their families about that too. And we think that that is probably a good move. We think that's still possible. But at 90% vaccination, that is a fairly manageable number. And so we just encourage the government to look at this very closely and to make sure that we're not inadvertently creating additional problems.
All right. Our thanks to Sara Nelson joining us. Really appreciate it. Safe travels this week. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you, and
good to see you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
All right.